Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just did my fairy tarot decks, and I don't know why something told me to do them, and I did them. And now I've got another little thing I want to tell you guys. It's one of my, and I've said this before. This channel is not just about tarot. It's about my mediumship abilities, my growth spiritually. It's about several different things. And I'm trying to find it here. I should have pulled it up before I did the video, started the video. But um, this is one of my very first experiences I had while meditating um, that made me realize, because I'd been told already at this point several times that I was a medium. I didn't believe it. I'm one of those people that have a hard time believing things when someone just, I don't face value, listen, and believe. Um, and this really, this meditation experience really hit home that maybe there's more to this than I think there is. Maybe I am a medium. And it's probably at this point when I realized, it kind of solidified. You need to start claiming it. Start saying, yes, I am a medium, because you are one. Now, I haven't really done a lot of practicing with it. I did start trying to do that in the beginning, which I had a lot of my spiritual journey before I ever picked up tarot. And I think that's why I actually picked up tarot, because I wasn't, according to my guides, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, which is my mediumship work. And I was trying, but at the same time, I didn't believe anything that I was seeing, feeling, hearing, anything. And so I think the nudge from my guides to learn tarot was my proof in hand that this is real. It was a twofold thing. It was first of all, it was my proof I needed, that they know I needed, to realize this is real. And two, it helped me gain confidence in the abilities that I was experiencing. Because you can't argue with a card that you're seeing and you're getting all these things, and then you relate to somebody and they're like, that's exactly the way he used to be. So, and now it's clocking really bad on my phone. I'm trying to pull this story up because I did a blog on it. I've been doing a blog for 5 years. So it's Sacrificial Chainbreaker. You can actually find it as a secondary page on Facebook. I have a lot of different stories I've done, fiction, nonfiction, stuff about my life, meditation experiences I've had, card spreads I've done, stuff like that on there. It's a catch-all for everything I write. But this is one of the first times I meditated where I was like, And so I was sitting in my husband's recliner, and if you hear him screaming, he's watching the Chiefs game. If you hear him screaming, that means they've scored, because the louder he is, the better they're doing usually. If he's quiet, then it's not going that great for him, the way he wants it to go. But yeah, he's watching the game right now, and the video I just did, he did yell, so I don't know if anybody picked that up or not. But this video I'm going to call What's in a Name. And that is the name of the blog I did as well. So I was sitting in my husband's recliner one night. Actually, it was probably twilight time. And I was like, I'm just going to sit here and meditate. And whatever happens, happens. And it was like, I'd been meditating for a little while. But it was one of those first times I ever meditated that I'm like, I'm not even going to have any expectations. Whatever happens, happens. And usually, because I have a chaotic mind, it takes a long while to get me in a meditative state where I'm like having an experience of some sort. And this time shocked me because I was meditating for maybe a minute, and all of a sudden I saw this image in my mind's eye, which I now know is clairvoyancy. Clairvoyantly, I saw a lady's face, just her like headshot. And as quickly as it came, it was gone. And I'm like, what was that? It was like a drive-by picture of a face. And as soon as I'm like, before I even had time to contemplate, what is this? It was replaced by an image of a skeleton. And it was the upper torso and the face of a skeleton. And it looked like it had been burned. But it was like, there was this gooey black stuff on it. And I'm like, what is this? Like, it's a dead person. And that image stayed, like, lingered in front of me for a good minute. It was a whole lot longer than the first one had shown up. And it took me a minute to realize, but this skeleton was this woman. And then I'm like, oh my God, what happened to you? Like, I'd never seen a burned body before, a burnt skeleton, but it was like the skeleton itself, the bones were scorched, but it was like gummy black tar stuff. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. So, I started asking questions, and it's one of the first times also, instead of being terrified of it, I started asking questions as I was seeing it. I was like, okay, what is your name? And as soon as the word name came out of my mouth, I heard the word Alice in my head. Like, when I hear it in my head, it's like, almost like a word going by, going through my mind, and I can see it and I can hear it at the same time, if that makes sense. So I only know one Alice. I've only known one Alice my whole life. She's still living. So I'm like, okay, this is clearly someone that's passed, that's reaching out to me. And I sat there for a minute. I'm like, who's Alice? Okay. And then I'm like, I don't know any Alice. And then before I even formed the full thought, what is your name? Or what is your last name? The word Devereaux came into my mind. And it came in the same way. It was like the word was going across my brain, and I could see it and hear the word Devereaux at the same time. And I knew exactly how it was spelled. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And then I'm like, okay, Alice, how did you die? And then everything went blank. And I'm like there was no other contact. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I stopped the meditation, and something was nagging at me to Google her name. So I Google her name, and the first thing that pops up is this image. Shoot, it's too bright. Let me see if you can see it. It's a gravestone with the name Alice Devereaux, and it's spelled exactly how I saw it in my mind. And then I got to looking at it, and her birthday was 1872. She died April 7th, 1943. Way before I was ever thought of. Way before my mother was ever thought of. She was buried in Suffolk, England. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Like, I have no connection to this woman. I've never been to England. Why did she show me this? So, as I'm sitting here looking at this, the black gumminess of the bones that were sticking to the bones really was going over and over in my head. And all of a sudden, something said, look up radiation poisoning. And I'm like, what? I don't know what radiation poisoning looks like. I don't know what it looks like on a skeleton that's been affected by radiation poisoning. I have no idea. I still don't know. what a body that has been affected, or bones, a skeleton bones would look like affected by radiation poisoning. I'm too afraid to look it up because, Google will show you the images and stuff, so it freaks me out. But I wasn't, this was like one of the first meditations, even with this darkness, I wasn't scared. And so I started Googling. I Googled radiation poisoning in Suffolk, England. And that is when my jaw hit the floor. Because Suffolk, England, 1940, I wrote it here, but I think it was 1947. Wait, it's 3 years later. So she was buried 1943. So it's 1946. I couldn't find anything on her death, how she died, nothing on her. But what I found interesting is when I started looking into the radiation poisoning in that area, or in that town, there was a report in 1946 of this. There's this college there that the college had just got shut down because there were so many deaths at the college due to radiation poisoning. And I'm like, what is happening? And I kept getting the word Chernobyl, and I know Chernobyl happened way later. And I'm like, what does Chernobyl have to do with it? Even though there's radiation poisoning there, I don't get it. So when I was looking up and I read the article on the college, and it was the first article that they had written of that town, of anything, that recognized that people were dying of radiation poisoning and they didn't know why or how. And I know she was 70, 71 when she died. So she could have died from a number of other things. But just the fact that I was seeing this skeleton, I saw her face, I heard this name, she lives in this town, and I think I read later on that she actually worked at the college at some point. That it's not far-fetched to think that maybe her death was due to radiation poisoning and people just didn't know it yet. So it just kind of threw me off. And I'm like, this whole thing like synchronized together as one big story. And I'm like, that's crazy. So then I couldn't figure out why Chernobyl kept coming up. So I Googled the distance between Suffolk, England and Chernobyl, because turns out Suffolk, England is a coastline city or town. And it turns out, even though it's 10 hours by flight, I think I read, from Suffolk, England to Chernobyl in Russia, they're on the same coastline. And to this day, they are still finding radioactive materials on the beach of Suffolk from Chernobyl. And I'm like, I know this happened way before Chernobyl, but were they building something? Was there something already going on in Chernobyl before because I think that it exploded in 1983, 87, something like that. So just this whole thing, it blew my mind. And so I'm telling my sister-in-law this, and she's like, well, you don't know this woman, so why would she be contacting you? Like, she's trying to debunk it, even though she's witnessed stuff that's been happening to me. She was there when I got my first reading, where they're like, you are a medium. Why are you hiding it? Why are you not doing it? She still tried to debunk this. Like, because you're a medium, it should be relatives coming to you. And I'm like, I don't believe that's true. I believe anybody that's passed can come to me if I'm a medium and I'm open to it. But it just, the whole synchronicity of all of it, and the thing that every time something said, hey, look this up, or look this up, I was seeing these synchronicities with this stuff. Now, I can't prove that she died by radiation poisoning. I can't prove any of that. It's just the simple connections that was happening all at once was just like blowing my mind. And my sister-in-law was like, she's not a relative. Why on earth would somebody that was born and died in England come and visit you? And I was like, why would she? So after like 3 days of contemplating this and trying to figure out why this random lady that died way before I was ever born come and visit me, um, it hit me because I have been questioning every single step of the way at this point. Anything I was seeing, anything I was hearing, anything I was feeling, I was like, that's not real. It's not happening. Um, it had to be somebody so random, so disconnected from me, um, with so many synchronicities that I would believe it. It had to be something so out there and so random to make the light bulb go off and say, you know what? You are a medium. This really happened. You're not making up the facts that you're looking up and how they're coinciding with what you're seeing and what you're hearing and what you're feeling. And so that really hit home for me. And I explained that to her, and she's like, well, I don't think so. I don't think that happened. And I'm like, you know what? Um, I had been praying, I had been asking, I'd been meditating for some kind of sign that this was real. Even though every time I was getting a sign, I wasn't believing it. This was my sign. This was my moment to let it sink in that this is something real. It is something that you have. You need to work on it. And so I cannot believe I've never told this story on here. And it just popped in my head today, and it was just like, it's almost like I have this weird connection to Alice now. Every now and then I'll think about her, and it's like she'll pop up, even though I've done enough, had enough experiences now to know if it's actually a spirit that's still here or someone that's passed on, and it's like almost like it's a what do you call it? Not a photocopy. I can't remember the name of what I'm trying to say. Um, the film thing that you get in the camera that shows your film. It's almost like their after image. They're gone, but it's like they're sending you impressions from wherever they're at. This is what's happening, and that's what I felt for her, that she wasn't physically here anymore. Her spirit was no longer here, but she was sending me this. Hey, you need to wake up. This is real. I'm here. This is real. And so I just thought that was really cool. And ever since then, I have not been like, oh, I'm a medium or whatever. No, I am a medium. I've been proven that I'm a medium. Um, and I know that seems silly, that story, but at the same time, there was so many connections to that it was just like impossible to not believe this is possibly how she died. Especially seeing the gumminess, the black gumminess of what was on her skeleton. It was just weird and different than a regular burn victim, I think. I don't know anything about it, but I'm pretty sure that's the difference, was that it was a radiation burns versus a fire burn. But yeah, that is my story. I do have more meditation experiences, other regular experiences. If you guys want to hear about them, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And you guys have a great night.